Wait, this guy? He looks way too serious for this job. This is so embarrassing. This is actually embarrassing.
They laughed at him before they even reached the door. It started as a ripple, the kind of careless laughter that comes easily when people feel untouchable. High heels tapped against the polished pavement, designer bags swung like trophies, and voices overlapped in bright, confident bursts. The afternoon sun poured over the glass facade of the hotel, turning everything into a reflection of luxury and status. And then their eyes landed on him. Marcus stood by the entrance in a simple black security uniform, posture straight, hands lightly clasped in front of him. Nothing about him screamed importance. No flashing wealth, no entourage, no reason for anyone to look twice. Except they did. "Wait," one of the women said, slowing down, her lips curling into a smile that wasn't kind. "Is he the one on duty here?" Another leaned closer, tilting her head as if examining something amusing. "He looks way too serious for this job." The laughter came again, louder this time. Marcus didn't move. He had learned long ago that silence reveals more than words ever could. The hotel doors behind him slid open and closed as guests passed through. But for a moment, the world narrowed to this group approaching him. He could already feel the energy shifting, the way people behave when they believe someone is beneath them. It was subtle at first, almost invisible, but then it grew like a crack spreading through glass. And at the center of it all was her. Vanessa walked slightly ahead of the others, her presence effortless, controlled. She didn't laugh immediately. She simply looked. Not at the building. Not at the crowd. At him. Her eyes moved over him in a quick, dismissive scan, as if categorizing him in a single glance. It wasn't curiosity. It wasn't interest. It was judgment. Marcus felt it. He had spent years building companies, closing deals worth more than most people would see in a lifetime, commanding rooms filled with powerful individuals. Yet in that moment, none of that existed. Here, he was just a man in a uniform. And that was exactly the point. He had chosen this. Marcus Reed didn't trust easily. Wealth had taught him that smiles could be rehearsed, kindness could be strategic, and affection could come with a price tag. When his family introduced him to Vanessa, everything about her seemed perfect. She was intelligent, poised, and carried herself with the kind of confidence that turned heads without trying. On paper, she was everything. But Marcus had one rule that had never failed him. Never trust what people say. Trust what they do when they think it doesn't matter. So he created a test. Not one of money or generosity. Those were easy to fake. People could pretend to be good when there was something to gain. No, Marcus wanted something deeper. Respect. The kind that appears when there is nothing to gain at all. That was why he stood there now, dressed as a security guard at the very hotel Vanessa and her friends had chosen for their afternoon outing. Same man, same mind, same presence. But stripped of status. And now, the test had begun. "Excuse me," one of the friends said. Though her tone carried no real politeness, she stepped closer, her smile widening as if she had found entertainment in him. "Do you even know who you're supposed to be letting in?" Marcus met her gaze briefly, then shifted his attention back to Vanessa. He wasn't interested in the noise, only in the signal. Another voice chimed in. "He probably thinks he's important standing there like that." "Imagine waking up every day just to open doors for people," someone added, shaking her head with exaggerated pity. The group laughed again. Marcus felt the words pass through the air, felt the weight of them without reacting. He had heard worse in boardrooms, in negotiations, in moments where people underestimated him before realizing their mistake. But this was different. This wasn't strategy. This was character. He watched Vanessa closely. At first, she said nothing. Her friends spoke freely, their words bouncing off each other, building a rhythm of mockery that fed on itself. It would have been easy, so easy for her to interrupt, to redirect, to simply walk past without adding to it. She didn't. Instead, she took a step forward. The laughter softened slightly, as if the others were making space for her to speak. Vanessa looked directly at Marcus. There was no hesitation in her expression, no sign of discomfort, only certainty. You people, she said, her voice calm but sharp enough to cut through the noise, should learn your place. For a fraction of a second, the world seemed to still, not because of how loudly she spoke, but because of what she revealed. Marcus felt something shift inside him. Not anger, not surprise, but clarity. That one sentence told him more than any conversation ever could. Respect, he realized, was not something she gave freely. It was something she reserved for those she believed deserved it. And in her eyes, he didn't. The laughter returned, louder than before, as if her words had given permission for it to continue. One of the friends stepped closer, brushing past Marcus's shoulder as she moved toward the entrance. Don't take it personally, she said with a smirk. It's just your job. Another added, if you even have one tomorrow. More laughter. Marcus remained still. He could feel the moment stretching, balancing on a thin line between what was and what was about to be. This was the part most people never understood. Tests don't reveal people when things are easy. They reveal them when there is no reason to pretend. He gave Vanessa one more chance. Not with words, with silence. He held her gaze for just a moment longer, searching not for perfection, but for something human, a flicker of reconsideration, a hint of awareness. Anything that suggested she might step back from the line she had crossed. She didn't. If anything, her expression hardened, as if his silence confirmed whatever assumptions she had already made. That was enough. Marcus let out a slow breath, almost unnoticeable, and shifted his weight slightly. The decision had already been made. And then, everything changed. The sound came first. Quick footsteps approaching from inside the hotel, urgent, uneven. The doors slid open with more force than usual, and a man in a tailored suit stepped out, his expression tense, scanning the entrance until his eyes landed on Marcus. Relief washed over his face instantly. "Sir," he called out, his voice carrying across the space. The laughter stopped. Not completely, just enough to make room for confusion. The man hurried forward, stopping just short of Marcus, straightening his posture as if suddenly aware of the eyes on him. "We've been looking everywhere for you," he said, his tone shifting into something respectful, almost deferential. No one spoke. The group of women stood frozen, their earlier confidence replaced by something quieter, more uncertain. The man continued, his voice steady now. "The board has arrived. The investors are waiting." He paused, then added clearly and deliberately, "Mr. Reed." The silence that followed was absolute. It wasn't the kind of silence that comes from calm. It was the kind that comes from realization. Vanessa's expression changed first. Not dramatically, not all at once, but enough. Her posture stiffened, her eyes widening just slightly as the pieces began to fall into place. The man she had just dismissed, the one she had spoken to as if he were invisible, was now being addressed with a name that carried weight. A name she knew. Around her, her friends shifted uncomfortably. One took a small step back. Another glanced between Marcus and the manager, as if trying to confirm what they had just heard. But there was no misunderstanding. Marcus straightened. Not in a dramatic way, not to assert dominance, but simply by removing the illusion. The uniform no longer defined him. It was just fabric, nothing more. He looked at Vanessa again. This time, there was no searching, no waiting, only truth. "I wasn't testing your love," he said, his voice calm, controlled, carrying just enough weight to hold her attention. He let the words settle before continuing. "I was testing your respect." The distance between them felt larger now, though neither of them had moved. Vanessa opened her mouth slightly, as if to speak, but nothing came out. Whatever she might have said earlier no longer had a place here. Marcus held her gaze for one final moment. "And you failed." There was no anger in his voice, no raised tone, just certainty. He turned away before she could respond, stepping past her and toward the entrance. The same doors he had stood beside moments ago now opened for him, not because of the uniform he wore, but because of who he was. Inside, the world awaited him, meetings, decisions, the rhythm of power he knew so well. Behind him, the silence remained. Vanessa stood still, the weight of the moment settling around her like something she couldn't shake. Her friends, once so loud, now had nothing to say, because in the end, the test had never been about status. It had never been about wealth, It had been about something far simpler, who she chose to be, when she thought no one important was watching. And that, Marcus knew, was the only truth that ever mattered.